to, in my humble opinion, only on 101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Sir Charles, Ron.
Yeah.
Back like we never left for another beautiful Sunday with the people.
It's been a long time. We shouldn't have left you. Got a dope beat to step to.
You know, man, that's the God's honest truth, Ron. It always feels like a long time, man. You know,
Yeah,
so we are live for the people every other Sunday, re-airing your favorites on those off Sundays, man. And y'all know how to reach us during the breaks. 434-422-9101. Tell a friend, 101.3 FM. And if they're not in our local listening area, man, we streaming right now, Ron. Streaming worldwide. We talking about Facebook, talking about YouTube. Whether you follow Vinegar Hill, WVAI 101 Jams, or in my humble opinion, yours truly, you know, we are here for you. And you're right, it does feel like it always be a long time because there's so much going on in the community. But as I said, we got a job to do, and that's what makes it a beautiful Sunday. We still here, y'all still here, if you're under the sound of our voice. So that's what makes it beautiful, Ron. That's why I feel good. What about yourself?
Man,
I want to speak for you.
No, we good. I feel great. I know we got some guests in there that are going to be talking about some real critical topics that you and I love to talk about, which is education of our babies. So I'm looking forward to getting to it. And, I think we got some other things we're going to discuss, the rise and downfall of some guy that makes a lot of good music. Look, all I know is I don't know if Jesus is walking with that brother no more. Is Jesus still walking with Jesus, or did he leave him? Like,
well, from one PK to another, you know that Jesus always walks with us.
I don't know. He might have told Yeezy to get a bus pass, bro.
You know that they say that like when you only see one set of footsteps, that means he carried us. Man, don't make me preach this morning now.
No, please don't. Please don't. Because it's gonna start off as good, and then at the end you're gonna be asking for somebody to give 90%. So we good, man.
Well, since you bring it up, here's my cash app. I'm just playing.
Venmo, Cash App.
Hey, but but as you said, I'm excited for today. We have guests with us. We are going to be joined later in the show. So you don't have to just put up with Aaron and I's foolishness all day, y'all. we do have the Albemarle County Albemarle County High School equities team, Miss Pearl Early, a legend in the community, as well as a young legend, Lanika Barnes. They're going to be joining us, and she's no stranger. You remember Lanika, Aaron, from she started the Fire and Ice Bookshop.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so she's going to be on
Lanika.
second hour. This first hour we have for y'all the streaming. You see a young lady sitting in the studio with me right now. Glad to have her from the COOP organization, which is Charlottesville United for Public Education. We have Sandra with us today. For those who may not have heard of the organization, going to introduce it, and for those who may not know what the organization has going on, she's going to pitch some of those events. And both of those organizations that I mentioned, they have events coming up this week, man. And the conversations today are very highlighted and centralized around just education equity and all that may mean, because like we've been getting reached out to a lot about how to cover it. Folks have different ideas, man. So we just want to do diligence and do the service that the folks expect us to do, Aaron, what they have come to expect from, in my humble opinion, because our babies matter, their lives matter, their well-being matters. Right. And so this conversation is just the tip of the iceberg. We got to make sure these babies are eating healthy. We got to make sure they're in safe environments. We got to make sure that the resources are there for them to grow up healthy, safe, and being nurtured, man. And I know sometimes it gets hard. And for some of us, unfortunately, it is harder than it is for others. But one thing about Charlottesville, we don't lack resources, Aaron.
Oh, yeah.
They don't know about something or don't feel connected to something. That just means that the folks with the resources aren't doing their job. So we got to make sure that we get it out there, Aaron.
Cool. Good deal. I'm super excited. And let's get right to the guest so she can share this information and introduce herself.
That sounds good. So without further ado, Sandra, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Very welcome. So Charlottesville United for Public Education. To to let the folks know, you all do have an event coming up October 12th that folks can register for 7:30 via Zoom. But before we go further into that, just let people know. So CUPE, Charlottesville United for Public Education. What exactly is the mission of that organization? How did it come about?
Yeah, so our mission is actually, we believe that every child deserves quality education. And specifically for CUPE, what we're really trying to do for the community is that there's a lot of voices that are not currently heard. And specifically for myself, I grew up, in poverty. I grew up, with a lot of people that didn't feel like they had the opportunity to be able to voice their opinions. And so what CUPE really wants to do is reach out to those people. We want their voices to be heard. So with that said, it is focused on the brown and the Black community. So giving the power to, the people that haven't had the opportunity to do so.
Sounds good. I appreciate it. That is definitely needed. So is it connected to particular schools? Is it like representatives from PTOs from different schools? Like who's involved and what qualifies if anyone wants to become a member?
Right. So right now, CUPE is focused in the city of Charlottesville. It was actually started by people that are parents, grandparents, and community members in Charlottesville who want to put that their energy and their resources into making things happen for the community. So we have Mary Coleman who runs the City of Promise. So she has her own program that she runs, and we have people that are just passionate about making a difference. So anybody, honestly, we want to reach out to everybody in the community that wants to be part of this movement, because it's really so important. Our children, like you said, we're trying to raise a good future. So anybody that's passionate about that, anybody that wants a better education for their children is more than welcome to come along with us.
Yeah, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we are joined by Sandra of CUPE Charlottesville United for Public Education. So, Sandra, there's a lot going on right now, unfortunately, and some when it comes to the schools and all the notices that parents have been getting and the bad news that we've been seeing, been made publicly, and we even found some of the times that it's not like some of it has been hoax. There was a hoax that happened. Some of it isn't even involving directly our students. But I'm curious, was there something in particular, or particular events or certain status of our schools that spearheaded this getting started? Was there a pivotal moment to where folks really said, "Oh, now we really got to organize something and do something"? And I'm curious for yourself too, what makes you passionate about it?
Right. So I'm actually just I'm the newest person to be.
Well, congratulations.
I actually my official start date is not until a few days from now.
Okay.
But I know that the people that I have spoke to, who's basically the people that are going to mentor me through this, they all see that there's a lack within the community. And so I think that that's really what has, spiraled to this point to get CUPE started, because, I was on a Zoom meeting not too long ago with another organization, and within that Zoom meeting, there was a woman that said, "Hey, I think that what you guys are doing is great because we get feedback, but it's always from the same parents."
Gotcha.
So we really want to change the approach to that. We really want people to feel comfortable enough, and not just comfortable enough, but to have the knowledge of what's going on within their children's education system, because we want a safe and nurturing environment. These calls, even the hoax one, it still causes anxiety for kids.
Right.
I think that there's a lot of important pieces that we need to address, so that parents and children both feel comfortable where their children are going every day.
Yeah, spot on. And like, so for you, for you personally, being a parent, like, what do you, what made you passionate enough to feel like that, hey, I actually need to be directly involved, and like sort of like what's your beckoning call to parents, because I hear you say that multiple times as far as like the involvement, right? I can imagine there's a lot of parents who may say, hey, I'm working all the time, I need the school just to do their job, you know what I mean? And I'm sure that they would be grateful for an organization like this, but I'm just curious, you as a parent, like what are ways that you're trying to get more involved, in ways that you all are asking the other parents to be more involved?
So I think for me, it's always been about trying to get to the point in my life where I'm actually living what my calling is. So I've worked jobs that paid the bills and kept food on the table and all that. But for me, it's always been searching for that drive, like what it is that I'm supposed to be doing with my life. I feel like we're all here for a reason. And so personally, I've actually lived it. I was not born here, so I'm an immigrant. I grew up, we didn't have very much money growing up, and I just feel like coming from somebody that has already gone through it and has already lived it, I can approach it in a way that maybe people would be able to understand it a little bit more. But that's where that drive comes from, is that I do, I get super like emotional about this stuff. But the children, in our community, because I was one of them, I want so much more for them. I want them to realize their potential, and I want us to be able to get to a point where we're working together, as a community. There's so much power in unity, and so I feel like CUPE is really driven by that. Trying to get us all together, because in numbers we're so powerful. So
right, absolutely, numbers we are powerful. Aaron, I know that's something that we talk about a lot. We could get so much more done through unity. So we do have a question that came in. If you could chime in anytime you want, Aaron. But one question that came in from a listener: how can we support teachers and families in providing deeper care, partnerships, and higher expectations to support our young people? So I think that's sort of that's a call to action that I believe that the organization does have. But we kind of talked about the families, but it's asking how can we support teachers and families for deeper care, partnerships, and higher expectations. Wow, have you guys been hearing from the teachers yet? As far as are the teachers that are involved, or have they expressed their needs, what they feel is missing?
Right. So we have somebody that is with CUPE. She's been volunteering a lot. Her name is Shamora.
Okay.
And so Shamora is actually that side of things with CUPE. She's a great support system. She is able to get feedback from teachers. But to answer that question, what I could say for CUPE and specifically for myself is that our approach would be to engaging with teachers, engaging with community members, engaging with students, listening. That's the most important part for us, is that if you're going to meet with people but you're not going to really try to understand where they're coming from or try to use what they're saying to make a difference, then you're not going to get anywhere with it. And then the last part is to be the voice. So CUPE is really trying to get all of that information from the community, from people, and then we want to share that, whether that is giving feedback to, the school board, or in whatever way possible. I know that social media is really big. So like I said, I'm just starting off, so I don't know specifically the ins and outs of exactly how everything's going to play out. But I do know that is the process of what we want to do.
Yeah. And I can tell you, but don't let that hold you back, because people appreciate the authenticity, because a lot of times what bogs us down, is is like the litigation of a lot of stuff. It's like getting too formal about it, it turns people off. So just the fact of, I applaud you, is just the fact of being a parent and saying, hey, there's there's need out here, right? Like we can make this better for, for our students, for our children. That's the most important is just keeping that energy. Because honestly, like sometimes, like when you get like deeper in, like into the involvement, like sometimes it kind of takes the passion out because, because then you got all the red tape you got to, cut through. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are joined by Sandra right now with Charlottesville United for Public Education. And well, I mean, Sandra, like I definitely want. There's my brain is going every which way because there's so much I'm hearing right now that's going on in the community. To where like I would love to get your opinion on and whatnot. But but feel free to chime in on whatever you feel like that you feel is most important to share with the listening audience. Because it really stood out to me how you when you spoke of you were immigrant when coming here. If you don't mind, where were you from?
I was born in Jalisco, Mexico.
Mexico. Okay. So and because that makes me curious. Like some folks decided to go to private schools, like just to sort of get to get out of the public education situation. But then we found with different cultures too, right? Like then you have that within public school to where you got to try to appease, so to speak, and whether it's different learning styles and like whatever the case is. So I always find that very, very interesting on even like just that balance. And so I'm curious, like have you seen anything in particular, like when it comes to I guess like the needs from something you experienced when you were younger versus working with, like you said, different brown, Black children? Is there like the similarities and the differences?
Yeah, I definitely think there's a lot of similarities. So I actually went to Monticello High School. I went to Albemarle High School. I went to Verona High School in Richmond for some time, and I was the person that was friends with everybody, and that kind of stuck with me throughout the years. I was in banking for many years. I think total of like 7 years I was in banking. Banking as in money, because my accent, everybody thinks it's baking.
No, I got you. I follow you.
So even throughout my career, I was always the person that was called to help people from different backgrounds. So I think that it takes an accepting mentality. It takes to realize that if when you have the same mission, when you have the same you want to reach the same end goal, for anybody that's a person of color, you're naturally drawn together. So I was friends with the Africans. I was friends, some of my best friends that I grew up with, majority of them were Black. And I had a lot of Latino best friends who I'm still in contact with. But it's about realizing your similarities and not trying to focus on those differences. That's the key for me.
Yeah, spot on.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I didn't have a question, but I did have a comment because I saw the hoax stuff that was going on in the in you guys' area, and you guys, I relocated, and that actually happened a few days ago here at local high schools in this particular area as well. And I want to reiterate that a lot of times we talk about parental involvement in the schools, but we need a different level of parental involvement with our own children, because children are very well connected. And when you start to talk to the teenagers and stuff like that, sometimes they know the kids that are either involved in doing this stuff, whether it's kids or not. But we just have to have more of a direct message and try to get across that rearranging these resources, Charles, when this kind of stuff happens, prevents you from having the protection that you need if something really does pop off. And we really need to talk to kids specifically, like, there's nothing funny about any of this. Like my tone is totally different. Because if something really happens and if there is really a threat, attention whoring, excuse my quote, is not going to help you when you actually have a circumstance where you need law enforcement or need resources. And I think parents really need to get that information through to their children, and also the kids themselves, even at a teenage level. You know, what was that thing, Charles, we used to see? They say, if you see something, say something. Hey, man, hey, look, this ain't no snitching society no more, bro. This is, hey, if Raheem, Jimmy, Mike, or whoever, they talking crazy, y'all need to say something. Because this is something that is happening nationwide. And unfortunately, I think, obviously, we all saw what happened in Texas, and I'm glad that we have these organizations. But like Charles said in the beginning, this is all hands on deck, because it's almost like they're playing with these schools. And the fact that they can do it so easily, it does bother me, man. It does bother me.
Look, I'm going to take a step further when it comes to that accountability. You know, how you mentioned the you know, like it's not about snitching. Like, to me, to say something is really about holding each other accountable. You know, like that's why I applaud Sandra, because, you know, like I feel like that it's about parents, like, you know, finding our friends and being like, hey, like here's what we need to do. Here's how we need to get involved. Or it's like, hey, like your child is lacking something, my child may be lacking something. Like, how can we leverage our resources? You know, like maybe your child or even the parent, like, may have been strong in a particular subject. Maybe me or my child may not understand the subject. You know what I mean? Like there's, you know, like when it comes to saying something, Aaron, to your point, like I feel like that's the accountable part. And then when we're talking to our youth as well, it's like, you know, like you can be a product of your environment. Like, so why not try to, you know, make it the best you can? If you're gonna be a product, you know what I mean? Like call out your boy. You know what I mean? If you see your boy slacking, that ain't gonna get them to their end goal. Like that's not, you know, that's not a recipe for success. So,
and let's be clear, because this is something that I have actually when my sons, because both of my kids are, one's out of college, one's in college, but let's be clear, I had confrontational conversations with parents about my children's problematic behavior and other children's problematic behavior. And I'm friends with some of those parents to this day. And because we had a conversation, I'm like, hey, bro, Mike is in here acting crazy, and these kids are getting involved in things they shouldn't be acting. Or somebody says, hey, Aaron, you need to come talk to such and such because he's not doing this. If the goal is for the kids to win and have the healthiest environment, we've got to remove the ego out of it. And you got to learn, Charles, we noticed you got to learn how to be objective and have uncomfortable conversations. Guess what? It might be your kid. And sometimes it might not. It doesn't matter if it's the goal to get to where you got to go. And also as parents, we do need to have a more of a, because I think the thing you said in the beginning that has always bothered me, particularly and I can't speak for Brown. I'm talking about, I grew up in majority Black communities. Okay. And sometimes those schools were not good, but you would think the parents would want to be involved more, but they're not. Because there's a point to where you get used to mediocrity and nobody wants to talk about that. And we have to say to ourselves, the only way it's going to get better is the squeaky wheel gets the oil. So you can't have the kids that have all the resources and their parents don't need to be involved, but they are involved because they're advocates. We can't depend on a school system to educate your children properly when we know that the system is not properly set up to educate your children properly. It's an oxymoron. You have to be involved more. You got to advocate for what you want. That's why we have parents like this that are sitting here like, I'm not just going to let people railroad my child, but I'm also going to talk about the inadequacy. So parents have to hold themselves accountable to say, I'm not doing enough. If more parents said that, you force teachers, you force educators to say, look, I can't just come in here and just slack off and things of that nature. I mean, there's so many inappropriate things, Charles, going on in school systems across the country. I'll mention this, and then I want to get the guest. I want to get some of her feedback. But man, in the county I grew up in, Queens, they just arrested a woman that was sending, I think, 5,500 inappropriate texts. She was a teacher to 17, 18-year-old boys. Like, this is unacceptable behavior. There's nothing funny or comedic about any of this. And this is happening rampant in a lot of our schools, and we need to talk about it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Aaron. I know that was a lot, Sandra, like, but you can.
I was going to say thank you, Aaron, for a lot of the things that you said, because you did say that within our communities, parents have to kind of take the wheel and, get into action for seeing these changes for their kids. And you said we get used to mediocrity, and I do completely agree with that. I can say that from a parent's perspective, and specifically as a single mother, I would say that I think that a lot of times parents, they're tired, they're like, well, what time do I have? Or, what's the point if no one's going to hear me? And so I do want to, say that with CUPE, that is one of the biggest parts. And actually that is my role within CUPE, is going to,
That's awesome.
going to the communities and going to the people that might not necessarily, want to go and search for where they can have their voice heard. We are the ones that are trying to reach out. We're the ones that are trying to get to those people that we want those your opinion matters, definitely, especially when it has to do with your kids. So yeah, thank you, Aaron, for mentioning that, because that's actually one of the most important parts of what we're doing.
Yeah. And Aaron, we're gonna get deeper into it later in the show too. But it's, man, because it's so deep rooted. It's a lot of what we're talking about. It's not just sending the kids to school and sending them to a good school. A lot of this is cultural.
Yes.
And Sandra, I don't know how much you've heard our show, but we don't hold back. We hold each other accountable. We hold our people accountable. And it's there's so many things culturally that have convinced our kids that school isn't cool, school isn't needed. What's cool is for you to go in there and be the biggest and baddest dude with the most girls. You know what I mean? And we got to get real. So if that's why you're going to school, then you're already missing the mark. And so so when we talk about the community engagement, the family support, civic participation, our babies literally are dying and being locked up weekly right now. That alone should be enough, for us to try to get serious about this. Aaron, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was going to say, because me, I try to listen. And for parents out there, this is not when Charles and I are communicating, and I can't speak for, I can't, I'm going to speak for Charles. I can tell, no, I'm going to speak, and I'm going to say this very clearly. You're talking to parents that go to every parent-teacher meeting, that are on every phone call, that are highly involved, that don't miss games, and that are engaged with probably what the American school system is going to say the most problematic part of the American school system, which is young Black boys. And you're talking about two men that have raised them. Some are in college, some are excelling. But the point is, we're engaged. And there was no part in the process that we decided that we were not going to be involved in, because they are a reflection of not only us, but this is your fruit. Everybody likes to talk about fruit and what they produce. Is there any better fruit that you can produce other than your children? There's no other fruit. What is it? So I think that sometimes, and to her point, when she says about parents being tired, absolutely. We also have to show people that investing in your children should be a priority. And sometimes I think we get very selfish and investing in ourselves.
Yeah, and totally the parents get tired. Totally understand that.
Yeah. Listen, I was tired.
But Sandra, that's why we need to go back to when somebody else see my kids acting up, grab them by the shirt and be like, your parents want you acting like that. We don't have that no more. You do that nowadays, that parent ready to fight. Don't you tell my kid what to do. I'm trying to help.
Right.
That's what we need to go back to.
No, I agree. And even with my daughter, I've always told her, now that she's older and we have situations with guns in school and the calls, and there was a shooting that was at Albemarle High School, all of these things that are going on. I don't think nobody was injured, but it's still very traumatizing. She said that one of her friends literally walked or ran from Albemarle High School all the way to Zaxby's. That's how afraid they were of what had gone down. And so, when they're younger and they're in elementary school, for my daughter, I always would tell her, if you see bullying, you got to stand up. You have to, even if it's not to that person, tell a teacher, tell someone. And Aaron was right. A lot of times we look at that as snitching, but it's not really, you're not really snitching if it's to help somebody or to prevent a situation. We need to call our children to be better, for them, like for them as individuals, like you're going to feel so much better about yourself, to try and be a good human being, and even more so if you're standing up for other people and helping to make a shift within how we treat each other.
Yeah, spot on. Thank you for that. Yeah, and as we said, like this is an all hands on deck situation. Charlottesville United for Public Education. There's so many resources out here. There's the food banks. There's I don't want to name any by name, but there's so many out here that are providing that resource. There's clinicians out here who have grants or are volunteering their time, because like you said, the young lady that ran from Albemarle to Zaxby's, like she probably needs some counseling.
Right.
She's gonna need a little bit of therapy, and there's folks out here that are offering that, right? And we have great organizations like that are trying to take our young men in, and women too, and our young girls and mentor, right, and try to give other outlets for this energy that's showing itself in negative ways. But it's just a matter of us getting serious and unifying. And I might say this a lot over the show, Aaron, but the worst thing that we do, I feel like right now, is the whole pointing fingers and pointing out what somebody else is not doing, right? And instead of letting them be great in what they do, right? And then whatever I'm bringing to the table, I need to be great in what I do. You know what I mean?
That's a fact. No,
Yeah.
look, I can't point any fingers at anybody if I'm not involved. And
Mm.
so if you're more involved, you actually, the more people get involved with stuff, not only is it less likely you don't point fingers at somebody else, but you're actively working. You're actively working to solve your own problem. I don't have time to say Charles is or whatever is letting their kid come to school and act a fool when he's actively involved in serving and protecting and encouraging and nurturing his own children. You don't have time for that. And then the more people that are behaving that way, the spotlight becomes easier on those other kids, because it's like, well, look, looks like we got a sore thumb over here. And so that's the thing, because everybody likes to point the finger at the bad child or the parents that are not involved. But are you really doing what you can? I see a question online, Karen. How can we convince the kids that it's not snitching, it's staying safe? Karen, that's a great question. That goes back to culture, what Charles was talking about. And also that imploring and helping kids understand that their safety is number one, because you can't think that you're immune from these things that are happening. And so I just think it goes back to culture, parents encouraging their children to speak up and say something, because you got to think about these kids are getting, public. I want everybody to think about this. Public schools are getting domestic terror threats daily. That's how people should look at this. Public schools, children are getting domestic terror threats daily. If it's a kid in your school, that's a domestic, you're a domestic terrorist. And this is unacceptable. But this is how this needs to be communicated to children, community, and also our resource officers, our administration, our officials. Everybody needs to treat this as the threat that it is.
Yeah. Now, Sandra said she just started. We don't want to scare her away. We're not, like, hopefully we're making you feel empowered.
No, she good. She good. She good.
Yeah. So, so kind of to bring it to close, and like I said, if there's anything that you feel we're missing, feel free to chime in. But we are joined by Sandra from Charlottesville United for Public Education. And go to their website, y'all, charlottesvilleunited.org. Charlottesvilleunited.org. You can learn more about them, the priorities, how to get involved, the news and events. And speaking of events, we're going to get to that. And I want to shout out the advisory committee too. Shout out, and like it says in there about us, like this is like these are local school parents, local school employees, organizers, what have you. So Krista Bennett, Mary Coleman, Shamora Cooper, Nancy, I have no idea how to pronounce your last name, Nancy Dosh, I'm going to say, Marcel Eldridge, Harold Foley, Holly Hatcher, Guinevere Higgins, Brian Johns, Dr. Sharika Jones-Lewis, Ariel O'Shea, Annie Suttle, Frank Valdez. Thank you all for what you are doing, what you have started. So, Sandra, to kick it to you when it comes to this week event, this is still a fresh organization, but it looks like there's the new Public School Matters event series that you all are going to be having that kicks off October 12th with a webinar on transportation reconfiguration. Yeah, anything you want to elaborate on the event, the importance of it?
Yeah, so within the city of Charlottesville, we've had a lot of issues with transportation. For me personally, I just feel like it's a safety concern for a lot of parents. So the meeting is about transportation and the Buford renovation as well.
Oh, okay.
So talking about how things are changing. I know that in the school board meeting, they said that they have 4 new bus drivers that have, I think, are in the process of going through training.
Mhm.
And then they had 4 other people that were submitting applications. So the state did actually raise the pay for bus drivers.
Mhm.
So it's having a conversation over that. Hopefully things are going to change here soon, and transportation is going to get it's going to be better for the city. I know that a lot of students are having to take buses, and they're like figuring out ways to route them to their destination safely. So yeah, that's one of the most important pieces, because it has to do with our children's safety. So
Yeah, absolutely.
it's great to have the signs that say students walk to school, but we
Mm.
need to figure out how we can get those kids transported there safely. So one of the biggest topics right now, I would say.
Yeah, gotcha.
And
Yeah.
which is why we're talking about it.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And it looks like the invited speakers you have Kim Powell, COO for Charlottesville City Schools, Lisa Larson Torres, Chair of the School Board, Wick Knox, VMDO Architects. It's going to be facilitated by Daniel Fairley. He's no stranger here, City of Charlottesville Youth Opportunity Coordinator. And so I gave folks the website. And because you need the RSVP, right? And to get the meeting
and
details.
so you can send questions and things like that, so we can address
Awesome.
any specific questions directly from parents or from community members.
All right, that is awesome. That sounds good.
And teachers too, because
Yeah.
teachers are very important.
Absolutely.
And there was actually a teacher that spoke at the school board, and I thought it was great that they were there and they were able to open up on their feelings, because it is very important. They're the people that are there for our kids, and for us, what we really want to do is make that a partnership between parents and teachers. So
awesome. And I'm sorry if I overlooked this, if you mentioned it, but as far as those who can be involved, is this just city schools, or does this include county?
So for now, CUPE is for the city.
Okay. Just wanted to clarify. That's awesome. And that's I appreciate you being here. The lesson that comes to mind for me is that I feel like COVID has changed so much. I feel like the issues that we had pre-COVID are now sort of amplified, because and I know the educators tried, and thankful for y'all who stuck through that. But things are amplified now because unfortunately our students went through a few years of lackluster classroom experience.
Right.
And again, that's not taking a shot at any educator or schools. It was just the situation that life handed us.
Right.
And so now to get back in that, in the way that the world has changed and evolved, it's tough. So they definitely need all the support we can give them. For sure. So, hey, Ron, Sandra, if in any closing words, we appreciate having both of y'all here for this discussion, and looking forward for to all of the different follow up and the good work.
Yeah, absolutely. So anybody that is listening, I encourage you to go to the website. October 12th at 7:30 is when we're having this Zoom meeting, a webinar. I'm talking about important events that are going on within the schools. And that's it. I appreciate you guys having me here today.
Absolutely. And anytime, any way we can partner and help spread the word and support, let us know. Don't hesitate.
Thank you.
All right. All right. Hey, Ron, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break if that's cool with you, sir.
Oh, man. Yeah. You know what? Yeah, I think that's what we should do, my brother.
All right, y'all. Stay tuned. IMHO, so much show left. Remember, go ahead and hit them up online. I'm talking about CUPE Charlottesville United for Public Education. Sir Charles Ron, 434-422-9101 during the breaks. IMHO Talk Show online, y'all.
Cool.
Well, that was nice. I was very nervous, but
Oh, but you
got
seem,
through it.
yeah, you seem relaxed. I was gonna say you were like came in like a pro.
Thank you. So I didn't mention this, but I don't know if you.
Hey, Aaron.
Yo.
Aaron.
Yo.
Man, you know you're on a live stream. Get up. No, you think we can get a quick picture? You think you can get on the screen? Like kind of move up to your
Yeah. I'm here.
Let's try to make this work. I'm trying to think. Should we look at the webcam and take the picture? No, we probably should turn around with you right here on the screen. I can make you full screen. So there we go. All right, let's see if we can get around the screen.
Right here?
Well, you could like turn around this way.
This one?
Yeah. So then, like, we'll you with your back to Aaron.
Go back to Aaron.
Then
Oh, okay.
We'll try to do a selfie with Aaron on the screen. That's what I'm gonna try to do.
Okay.
Look at that.
Hi, Aaron. We're here.
I don't know where y'all at, but okay.
Yeah, we're here. You just look at the camera and smile.
All right.
Let's see. There we go. Get another one. All right, that should work. Thank y'all.
Thank you. It was nice talking to both of you. Nice talking to you, Aaron.
Oh, nice to meet you. Look forward to working with you in the future. Keep up the great work.
Thank you so much. I was telling Aaron, I was like, I was very nervous, but I'm very excited. I'll start to come into my own as I ease my way into this. So
Yeah. You're gonna end up being a bulldog. You good.
thank you.
All right, yep. So did you and I'm probably just going to come back on right now, and you can join me, but because I got some announcements, I'll go ahead and do the announcements, and then we'll break into the next hour. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and unmute you just so you know. Well, you actually, yeah, I guess you could. I think I was gonna make you unmute yourself. There you go. Here we go. Like domino. Queens don't know nothing about that. Like, you know.
Oh, we know.
They don't know about domino, man. Let me know about that good West Coast 90s. They good 90s West Coast. Yeah, buddy. But yeah, man. So the show's starting off so beautiful, don't you agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we but just at the bottom of this, I just wanted to come back with announcements. I appreciate all the love, family. We have so much going on in our community, man. We just gotta get it right, man. We gotta stay connected. Sometimes I get lost. It's like there's just so many things to say. Like Bob Marley said, so much things to say right now. Is that it just it's kind of sad sometimes, like on how we at ends, because we definitely gotta educate ourselves. We gotta take care of ourselves. But the only way that's gonna happen is through unity. Nobody's gonna hand it to us.
Yeah, everybody's gotta get on.
Man, generation after generation.
Yeah, gotta get on the same page. Gotta get on the same page, man.
Yeah. So we were just joined by Charlottesville United for Public Education. Told y'all about that October 12th sort of kickoff to their event series. Man, definitely go to their website, learn more. And we are going to be joined next hour by Albemarle, by the Albemarle County High School Equity Team.
Right.
And they have events coming up as well. Want to shed a new light. They have some new leadership, particularly Black leadership, trying to rewrite that narrative, trying to fix that image, separate the truth from the fiction on the work that they are doing there. And one big thing I have, like I said, it's a bunch, man, but one thing in particular, this afternoon, it was sent over to us. There's a jazz festival going on this afternoon, sent over by our good friends, cvillejazz.org. Want everybody to know about the festival lineup today at the Front Porch downtown from 2 to 8, going on until 8 p.m. If you're a non-member, it's $25 for the festival. If you are a Seville Jazz member, it's $20. Save that $5. They got Ivan Orr Ensemble, Olivia Hadley. They have John the Earth, Michael Ellswick, Will Evans, and Angelica X. And it's a jazz fest today, y'all, from 2 to 8. And Aaron, man, like when you and I were thinking about you and I meeting, brother, because the folks know you ain't in studio with us. Our loyal listeners know that. And Greensboro has a nice jazz club. I think it's called the Boston Lounge, brother. Like, maybe
that's gonna be rocking, bro.
Maybe we need to meet about halfway there.
Yeah, man.
But one other thing I wanted to make sure I mention as well. Like I said, we have more info for the Albemarle County district residents coming up in the show. But besides that, what's going on today, man? Other sort of pressing, as far as pressing date. Reached out to a good sister that has by a good sister that has an organization called Dream Creators. It's about breast cancer awareness. So they're having a breast cancer awareness event, and it's interesting, man, because I've had different people reach out about how to cover that for this month. Being that it is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So definitely shout out to all the survivors out there, and shout out to all the families who may have stuck it through, with a loved one through that whole ordeal.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Big deal, man.
Yeah. Black Health. Let me get it real quick. I want to give my condolences to a young man I went to high school with, family of Jason Conway. He was a New York City police officer, and unfortunately, he was participating in a basketball game sponsored by the New York City police officers last week, and he unfortunately collapsed on the court and passed away during that game.
Wow.
And so we went to high school together. He was a real good dude. But Black Health Matters, y'all. I don't even know how else to say it, man. Ain't no other but folks, you have to take care of yourself, because 45, 46 years old, that's just way too young. I coupled that with the fact I went to a wedding with my dad last week, and a guy walked up to me at the wedding and was like, "Man, how old is your dad?" And I was like, "Man, I think my dad's like 74, 75. And he was like, "Wow, he's still moving good." And I'm like, I've just had a conversation with somebody that passed away at 46. So guys, we got some life to live. Women, take care of yourselves. Get those tests done. Do not play with this stuff. Only thing you got is your life and your health, man.
That's right. It ain't no games, man. Ain't no games.
No games.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So much coming up, but just want to make sure before that we let you all know about things before you hear our voices again live on air, to make sure you don't miss it, because there's things you don't want to miss. So a couple of other things that we have coming up. Make sure I get back to it. Yeah. So Dr. Cornel West. Ron, the idea of a university in our time with Dr. Cornel West. He's going to be here at Old Cabell Hall Thursday, October 13th at 6 p.m. So that's this week, 6 p.m. Old Cabell Hall. You can go on dei.virginia.edu, dei.virginia.edu to find more about Dr. Cornel West's visit. And he's been here before. The brother always got something enlightening. Gotta appreciate that. I think. Lastly, like I was saying about the breast cancer awareness, man, and to your point where I thought you was going with it, man, like you remember when Richard Roundtree, aka Shaft, remember he was diagnosed with breast cancer? Like a lot of people didn't know that men technically can get breast cancer.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So I did.
Yeah.
Real talk, man. But breast cancer awareness event, Sisters Conquering Cancer. Shouts out to them. Sister Conquering Cancer demonstrations on how to check yourself. Come hear testimonies and spoken word poetry. Local vendors will be on hand so you can start your early holiday gifting. Location is the McGuffey Art Center, downtown on 2nd Street. Date and time is October 22nd, so just a couple Saturdays away. October 22nd, 1:30 to 5:30. And for further info, you can contact Caroline, 434-996-3386. It's 996-3386, or dreamcreators.llc22. Dreamcreators.llc22 at gmail.com. And last but not least to that, man, they are they wanted to say that Dream Creators is pleased to announce that they will be supporting a Sitting Pretty in Pink. If you or someone that has slightly used wigs that are no longer needed, there will be a drop box, and you can bring those wigs. They will be repurposed and given to cancer patients who are in need. And remember, October 22nd at the McGuffey Art Center, 201 2nd Street, Northwest Charlottesville, Virginia, 1:30 to 5:30. So Sitting Pretty Pink Wig program helping out. There will be a drop box. Man, so much good. That does my heart glad, y'all. Shouts out to y'all. That's what I'm talking about. being there for each other. That's what I'm talking about. So, how about we take this break for the hour? We're going to come right back. Y'all don't want to miss it. Trust me when I tell you. Albemarle County High School's own Miss Pearl Early and Mrs. Lanika Barnes.
Yeah.
Tell a friend, tell a friend. I am Your Talk Show, y'all.
Hey, are you on camera? Because I can't see you.
In My Humble Opinion talk show. Want to thank everybody for staying tuned, because you could be anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate it. Sir Charles A. Ron. And we're going to keep it coming. Like I said, tell a friend, 101.3 in our local listening area. Or if you are outside of our listening area, then you can definitely stream it as well. Look up WVAI on your favorite TuneIn app, your favorite radio app, WVAI. And also, check us out, YouTube. Whether you follow Jams or you follow Vinegar Hill, we don't care, just as long as you follow and subscribe. Hey, Ron.
Just give us a little love on the black hand side, my brother.
That's right. Never can be too much. And we are so we're in the second hour right now. And this is somewhat and so much of a special show. And as promised, we are joined by Albemarle County High School's own Miss Pearl Early, as well as Mrs. Lanika Barnes. No stranger. I felt like you were just here yesterday, Lanika.
I know. Last Sunday I was typing messages on Facebook. So thank you for always welcoming us to your space.
Absolutely. So let's sort of get right into it. And we're going to kind of hand over the reins, to you two ladies, because like I know that you all do great work. And right now, with our schools, our education system, there's so many misconceptions. And at the same time, there's so much help that's needed. So we love the fact that we can celebrate great educators such as yourselves, while at the same time, holding each other accountable and calling to task our people, our community. You got to have both. Like, it's not all what roses. It's not all a bed of roses. And sometimes, they say roses smell like boo-boo.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, and when it does, you gotta call a spade a spade. So I'm so glad I could have you all with us today. So once again, Mrs. Lanika Barnes, Miss Pearl Early, and we want to talk about the Albemarle County High School Equity Team. Let the folks know how that came to be and why it came to be.
So the Albemarle High School Equity Team is one of many that exists through the Albemarle County Public School Division. The first time, so I'm a transplant to Charlottesville.
Mm-hmm.
We moved here in 2014, and that was, I think the equity team was early. You can help me out. The equity team was birthed way before I got here.
Mm-hmm.
Through initiatives that were put forth from families and educators from the county and the city. So there was like parent coalitions and also teachers who were embedded in all of our schools. Leslie Wills' name, I know she was one of the first names that I heard about, who was pushing for conversations about culturally responsible and responsive and equitable measures to help support all students.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, the equity team process and the equity teams are spread throughout Albemarle County Public Schools.
Okay. Awesome. And Ms. Early, what did you want to add to that?
Well, I agree. And I want to thank you for having us on today.
Absolutely.
So the whole equity movement started in 1996.
Okay.
Through the creativity of the African American Parent Alliance. And that we were a large group of African American parents. We started out with 30 African American parents, Black parents who were really educated and wanted to be a voice for other children as well as our own. And so we worked with the first administration that I can recall, and that was with Dr. Kevin Kastner.
Okay.
And we worked closely with him because there were some major racial issues in the county and some of our schools that were predominantly white. And so with that being said, the students went home, the Black students went home and shared with their parents what they were experiencing and then trying to endure each day. So we birthed it out, and people like Mrs. Barnes and Dr. Bernard Harrison and some others came along and watered the harvest. And that's when everyone tried to start planting more seeds to deal with racism and bias and discrimination. Segregation was very much alive in this county during that time.
You know, as I now, you know, thank you for your work, number one, you know, up top, and
Yes.
thank you, you know, Nika, for continuing it. But something that came to mind when you were talking is, like, why do you all think that, like, that there's such a divide, like, when it comes to sort of those sectors of our community, like when it comes to, like, a lot of times if you're, you know, highly educated, that turns some of us off for some reason, and then terms get thrown out like elitist or like you think you're better than me, instead of it being we're all in this together, and we have different gifts. You know, we have different resources to bring to the table, but we should be in this together. And my level of education or my lack of level of education shouldn't be intimidating either way.
Right. So when we started in 1996 or 97, we were the parents that you just speaking of, or the individuals or the educators, we were all parents. And we needed great minds. We needed intelligent minds, because we had to look at data. We had to ask the right questions. We needed to know, we need to become clever. And we had to have a better understanding of what policy and regulations had been written for this county that was not working for us. So we had to challenge them. So we brought people from the university, from Region 10, people with backgrounds in HR, backgrounds in special education, because at that time, many of our Black students were being pulled into special ed, special education, and there was no voice. So when you come up against a system who has created a system that is not working for Black people, you need great minds to stand up and question until you can get them to understand you're not going to do it this way.
That's right. Agreed.
And to add to that, so Ms. Earl and I talk about a lot about the embedded trauma and historical division that has been planted in the Black community since we arrived on the shores of the United States of America in 1619. You had enslaved people who worked in the house. You had enslaved people who worked in the field. You had enslaved people who were provided with trades and skills to benefit other people, not necessarily their own community. And as we move forward, some 400 plus years later, we are still trying to grapple with that divide, that wedge that separates a non-monolithic race of people. So when we have these conversations about, for example, how do we make the conversation not about the haves and the have-nots or the educated and the non-educated, but just the voice and shifting the narrative. What's good for my family is good for your family in terms of, like Ms. Early said, those systematic changes. And there are lots of people who have been quoted as saying we can't, rebuild the house with the master's tools. Like we have to, and we talked about this before, we have to look within, no matter, and because all cultures and races do this. They look within for their strengths. If we look at for example, A.A. Rod talked about this too. If we look at like the Jewish community, in many Asian communities, they have figured out a way to utilize their gifts and talents, their language, their culture to keep their dollars in their communities, to keep education, geared toward what's going to keep them successful, help their families, their children continue to be elevated in terms of whether it be education or the workforce. So we have to figure out a way to come together to listen and understand that it's not about us against us. It's about it's us against a system that was designed to keep us from getting to where they are. And I put it quote unquote, like the haves and have-nots.
I'm with you.
And so, Ms. Early and I talk about this all the time, and that's what many of the initiatives that we're doing at AHS, because there are very few Black educators, Black or African American. We do have Black educators who are not African American. They come from other wonderful parts of our globe, our world, but they do have the same heart, and they want to see our children who are in these quote unquote gap groups be successful. Yeah. And so it's going to take, like Ms. Early said, us people who are we're in the system. So we talk about the data, and, we talk about policy. And so what we're going to be doing, hopefully every 9 weeks, is putting that information in front of families. These are the policies that they're writing for your children. Now let us listen to you so we can help you to get clarity about what's happening. And we can then ask the people above us, this is what the parents said, they need you to break this down in terms like we do for our students, because we're all learners, and to chunk it so that way I can be a part of this equitable movement that's part of our new mission.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's a sort of a catch-22, right? Because the work that you're doing, you're talking about, is so needed. But you also mentioned, sort of the cultural hindrances that we have. Right. So so sometimes, trust me, I know it can get very frustrating. It's almost like you're putting the cart before the horse sometimes in that regard. It's like, well, we have sort of like internal things to fix first, and then once we're unified, then we can do better, like public facing. But the work can't stop. Like, regardless of what issues there are, the work can't stop. And shifting the narrative, Miss Early and Mr. Barnes, that's something that I also heard you all mention. Like when it comes to sort of the lack of notice that the great team of African American educators at Albemarle High School are doing. So when it comes to shifting the narrative, like, is there a pivotal moment, or is there I guess why now, right? It's like what is it about right now that we feel like there needs to be a narrative shift for Albemarle High School?
So Ms. Early pointed at me. I think it has not. I think we have always been trying to shift the narrative, but especially after COVID, we realized that if we didn't do something right now for this time, we have to try again, like you just said. We have to make sure that change is coming, because if we look at the public facing data that's been in the papers, it's been in the news, it's on the VDOE profile website. Many of our schools that are racially diverse, the scores, the reading and math scores, are not where they should be. And so I was raised to try again. So we are going to, before this 9-week quarter is over, we wanted to bring as many families to the table to have a discussion about, okay, this is the critical information. This is what's happening in your child's school, and our children's school, because we think about all of the children that we teach as our children. So we need to stop, like you said, as an internal organization, stop, listen, and try to understand how we can utilize all of these amazing resources in Charlottesville. Like you said, Charlottesville I was reading, I think we have more nonprofits per capita than any city our size in the nation.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
how can we leverage these wonderful community partners and all of the resources? Albemarle County Public Schools has so many great resources. How can we make them fit what you need as a Black family? Like, how can we, as the educators who teach our children, who are part of this affinity group, this African American and Black affinity group, how can we make sure that communication fits your need as a family? And we have to bring the families back into the school. They have to feel welcome. That's one of the things that we hear about. Like, I've never felt welcome. I graduated from Albemarle High School and I've never been back except for my son's football game, my daughter's basketball game, or lacrosse match or something like that. How can we create these smaller, intimate gatherings where families feel welcome at PTSO meetings, at parent-teacher conferences? And how can we help ensure that those of us that are teachers, counselors, support specialists, how can we make sure that we're not trying to push our narrative on you, but we can learn to be effective listeners so that we can make sure what we're doing in the classroom is good for your child, good for all.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I do want to add, I'm just so thankful that I'm alive to see this new generation, like yourselves, revisit, research, and understand that history matters. You cannot move forward unless you know your history. And more you study Albemarle County history, you will be able to navigate and make some better inroads. Everything that you all are talking about today has always been in this county, has always been in our school division and community and neighbors. But what is refreshing to me is that you're young, and this is what we have always wanted and hoped for, that your generation will come behind us and research and understand, not so much into creating the wheel all over again, but looking at what has been created and work on adding arms to it. I'm so thankful with educators, young Black people like yourselves in the business in this community. The media is the most important tool that we've ever had. I mean, that's what kept us allowed us to put information out there. So yes, I'm from the old school, I'm from old history, I'm from whatever. I am young though, but what I'm saying is this: I'm so thankful to hear, and I can report back to my generation, report back to the people that we continue to work together on such as topics and issues as this.
Thank you.
So I got a hey guys, how you doing?
Hi.
Hello, how are you?
So all right. So I believe that Black parents are caught in probably the hardest decision-making processes when they have children in this part of the world. And let me explain this to you. The majority of Black schools in this country, if people love to throw out statistics, right? But, and I see her shaking her head because I think she might know where I'm going. But typically, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, that the Blacker the school becomes demographically, sometimes it's more underperforming. Is that an accurate statement?
Yes. And
okay.
Now it's not just the Blacker the school the population becomes, but also browner. So, and this is the first year that Albemarle High School is what they consider a majority school. So this is the first time in history.
Okay, so we're going to start there. So if you're a Black parent, I want people to listen. So if you're a Black parent and you want your child to have the quote unquote best possible education, many times Black parents have to make the decisions to pull their children from more comfortable environments and put them into environments to where you might be receiving a higher level of quote unquote education, but socially they're groomed different. They're around more people that are classified as white. And then internally they start to think and feel, because I've seen it, different things about themselves, because now they are a small percentage of that population. That is a dynamic that most of us, to me, and I learned this later on, that Black parents don't want to talk about, because there is a essential internal conflict that you are having with yourself. So my question is, because there are some Black parents, maybe I'll be the first one. There are some Black parents that want to have a strategy. But I guess really the first question is that if you guys could point out to each of you, 1 point each, what do we need to do culturally for ourselves to improve the education in our own schools to where there is no other dynamic? Because in a lot of these schools, you ain't got to you don't have to blame no system. The system can do everything it wants to do, but it is our response on how we respond to it and how we react to it and what we decide to change about it. So if each of you guys could give me 2 points, one each, what specifically can Black or brown parents do in our own schools culturally that can help us to just make some positive, constructive changes that can improve our children's education? And I know that's a very loaded question, so that's why I only said 2.
Well, I can only speak from where I have been for the past 30 years in Albemarle County, Charlottesville, and as well as working in both school divisions. What we need to be able to do, I feel, and we have yet to get there, is to trust each other. And secondly, to take the initiative to learn from the educational system in order for you to challenge the system, or before you can challenge the system. You have to put your emotions in check. Maybe that's 3.
That's all right. That's all right.
But what I'm saying is, when you have lived 67, well, let's say 6-some years, and you have, as I have, from North Carolina, experiencing racism at its most raw experience that I've had. But one thing that continues to repeat itself, Black people, they don't trust each other. Somehow within the fiber of them, they still lie, and they still try to find a different way to get their children to where they need to be successful, but they're not reaching back to try to help the others. So we have to communicate, we have to trust, and we have to understand the history, education history, policy, regulations. And I think that those three will allow us to move forward. But we don't trust each other, and we still lie. We still put the dagger in each other's backs. Parents or any other non-parent Blacks, I see that. And I just want to add this quickly. Working with international students from around the globe, they are, and their parents, they have united so well, so quickly in their small groups here. And their children show my age group the most respect. They don't practice lying. But somehow, with us, we're going to do what we think is best to get where we need to be.
Thank you for that.
And I always have to take a moment, because when I follow Miss Early, because she speaks the truth.
Yeah, you gotta let it digest.
You gotta let it digest. And you know, for me, I agree. You know, I'm Gen X, so we don't trust anybody. You know, we were told not to, you know, answer the door, you know, unless you know who's knocking on the door. You know, be home before the street lights. Like sometimes we have a hard time trusting just people internal or systems in general. So to add on to what Ms. Early said, as a parent and as an educator and as a person, I've worked a lot. I've worked in the corporate world. I've worked in a lot of places. We have to first start out with our why in our homes. So we have to be able to have conversations with our young people. And I say we, because this is my community. These are my people. Like Ms. Early said, we have to establish, in our own sphere of influence, the why education is important for you to be successful. And that's one of the things that we always say when we talk about as educators who are pushing for equitable practices and bringing families back into the community, into our schools. And for me, I always go back to, like, I remember watching Eyes on the Prize in elementary school and in middle school. And so I made my children watch Eyes on the Prize when they were coming up. So like Ms. Early said, when you're talking about reaching back, I think at some point, and doing research and reading, after schools were integrated, a lot of that rich history and pride and we can do this. Like, we lost a lot of Black educators, and this might be veering to the side, but
no, it's not. You're on track.
We have to get back to embracing, and celebrating who we are. We're not starting at ground zero. I heard someone say that this past week. When we talk to our children about the why for education, we have to remind them that you're not starting from zero, no matter what a test says, no matter what a person in your school building says. But from this point on, we're going to establish our why are we going to go to school every day unless something, prevents us from going to school like we're sick. Why is this important? Why is it important for us to read together, or you read to me something from Power School or Schoology or Canva, whatever the platform is for education. We have to establish again that why, and then we have to take that why to the school. So my child wants to be successful in the school, and this is their why. And this is what you said you can offer my student and myself to help us get to graduation. So I need to make sure that when we talk about other schools, like private schools, that's a lot they do because parents pay them. Well, we pay our taxes. We pay for our children to go to public school. So we should have a voice as families into what is happening. So establishing that why, and like Ms. Early said, taking that why to the meetings, to the conversations, and establishing a way for our students to be able to communicate the same in the classroom. And I think then we'll see the shifts in our classrooms.
And I just want to for that. Oh, no, my fault, Charles. But I just want to say, and I appreciate the young ladies. And yes, I'm calling Ms. Pearls. You young, so you better the young ladies commentary. But the one thing that both of them had communicated that I want to make sure everybody, and this is something that I had to learn, and I've done a great job. I'm gonna compliment myself. You need to advocate for your group. And as humans, and then I want Charles to get into questions, but as humans, I think the most disgusting thing that I've even seen is when we somehow feel, and she mentioned it when we talk about integration, that because you've now been integrated, you no longer need to advocate for your own group. And that to me is really what is happening, is because now all the pride and things of that nature from a generation that's lost, you know why people don't have it? Because they don't even look at the group as being successful. There is no benefit to having something Black. And that is how people feel. But if you're an advocate for your group, you will advocate for yourself. You'll advocate for your children. You'll advocate for your community if you believe there's value there. And many of our parents and many of our own children think that, well, in order for me to be successful, I can't do it this way. No, you absolutely can if you advocate for yourself. So kudos to these young ladies for continuing to educate our babies. But You can't think that you can't walk into a school and think the school is mediocre because somebody like you was in it. Like that's the first step.
Yeah. You know what? Like when we talk about culturally and what you can do culture and why it even looks like that there's other cultures who seem to get it right, so to speak.
And they don't get it right either. Let's just be clear. It looks different, but it may not be right. Right.
Yeah, but what stands out to me though, and I'm not trying to create a scapegoat at all. Again, the accountability piece. But we do have to remember though, and Ms. Early, I'm sure you have some stories that can testify to this. Like while there are a chosen few, like back in 1996, the Black community, has a history here that maybe someone who is an immigrant didn't have. You know what I mean? And honestly, like I'd go as far as to say that now we see that like within the Latino communities, after they've been here a while, then they kind of see the way this country works. So again, that kind of puts us back in the beginning of like, man, like there's these layers of things that need to be therapeutically removed. Like to kind of get to the core of what's going on.
I agree. I just want to throw this in there. I grew up in the 60s. And we didn't have all of the media that I am exposed to today. Mm-hmm. We had a TV with just 2 channels. And our parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents talked to us. They educated us. And the leadership from Ralph Abernathy, Julian Bond, Jesse Jackson, and then we're looking at Dr. King, we're looking at Dick Gregory. These are the people who talk to us on one channel, and our parents echoed it. And it prepared us. It showed me early on, if I don't communicate with my children and give them the understanding of what this white world looks like and will be like and treat you in ways that you would never ever imagine. I realized that I would be very much in war.
Yeah.
And I still have a raw part of me that I tried not to go there. And so you young people said one way, and I said the way that I grew up with and experienced. I don't care how you may cut it or look at it. Racism is racism. Prejudice is prejudice. Bias is bias. And segregation and discrimination is what it is. And don't fool yourselves, because it's much alive and it is roaming this earth and it is taking hold on our children of color, especially. And you know what? You got to look at the achievement gap, because that's where it was birthed in this county, the achievement gap. The white people saw the achievement gap before we did. But when we got in there to look at that achievement gap and to challenge them, they had to back off. So educate your children, talk to your children, and don't let the white people be your first child's educator.
Yes.
Yes.
Like you said, let it digest.
Yeah. Yes.
That's what we call high levels of Black self-respect. That right there.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So we did have a question that came in over the air too, and this kind of relates to something that Lanika said as well. We had first they said that the viewer remembers back in the day when Miss Maxine Holland, was tried to help out AHS with this issue as well. I think this is back when this viewer was in school, maybe in Albemarle County. But the question is, when monies are involved, how are changes implemented through diversity? Now, you all can interpret it the way that you wish, but when I hear it, when monies are involved, how is change implemented through diversity? Like I heard you mention, like the difference with where like you may have a private school that may, sort of specify their mission, and anybody that goes there, you have to fit within that, that box, so to speak. But public education, though, we all are paying for that as well, right? So in saying that, like when school board, the county increases the budget restructures the budget. The way I interpret that question is there talks about how diversity can be improved or equity can be improved when there's county money on the table. And one thing I want to say too, I'm an advocate of an academy. I know at one point there was talk about charter schools. I feel like charter by definition sometimes is a buzzword, people, but I feel like by the raw definition of it, it could work. I personally feel like that there's a significant number of our Black boys who could benefit from that, a specialized education for them. So something that's unapologetically Black, to be honest with you. Yeah. So any comments on that when money is involved? How does that affect the public school diversity?
So I will say, I want to give credit where credit is due to our allies who may not be a part of the Black or African American community, because there is money. And when we ask for support from our allies, they say whatever you need. In turn, well, there's always like a ceiling, but we do have, because of the shift in conversation and policy, and parents, please, I know that a lot of times the county school division and the city school division websites are kind of cumbersome about finding out what new policies changes are occurring. Please reach out to your trusted teachers and staff members at your child's school about the policy changes and policy shifts that are occurring in school, because there is money being poured with the last Virginia administration, the governor, toward diversity and inclusion practices and policies. Do it now, please, because we have a new governor, and we can see from information that he is putting out regarding policy. We just heard about the transgender policy shift, and they have taken off of the VDOE website the equity policies that were written over the years. So please, parents, pay attention to that. That's where money's going. So money was poured into crafting those policies, calling in experts, parent focus groups and things like that. Well, now they're gone. So that's money, our taxpayer money, that's now in the garbage can. That was so that being said, there is money available, and I know we're going to talk about this hopefully later, but the event that we have coming up at Albemarle High School on Tuesday, if you in Power School know that your child identifies as Black or African American, we're having a gathering, and we intentionally call it a gathering because we want to start creating those safe spaces for all students in our schools. And we asked for funding, and they said, whatever you need. And so this is a starting point for us to find out from families, like Ms. Early said, families, parents, grandparents, aunties. We know a lot of people, a lot of our children aren't being necessarily raised by their mother or father for various circumstances, but whomever it is, if you're hearing our voice and your student goes to Albemarle High School, and I heard Burley is also doing something very similar. So shout out to Burley and Miss Cassandra Blunt and Rusty Carlock. But please make sure that you check your email, check your mailbox, because we sent information out. We're going to be able to provide dinner. We're going to provide resources, and we're going to do this every 9 weeks. So that's that, and that takes funding. And so it's just a matter of us being able to hear from families what you need. Because my youngest daughter is a graduate of Albemarle High School, so she's no longer there. Miss Early's daughters both graduated from Albemarle High School, so we don't have boots on the ground or in the classrooms in terms of our students. So we need you to talk to your students to find out from them what they're experiencing, so that we can ask for that funding, so we can hopefully ask for dollars to make sure that we provide things. And I'm excited about this too. I'm sorry, I'm gonna let Miss Early talk. But we want to start neighborhood. We want to start back with those neighborhood parent associations all across the county, so that way they can gather and say, okay, this is what we need. Can y'all come to us? Or this is what we need. Can you provide us with we have 25 students in our community that are all reading the same book. Can you send somebody or provide us with the name of an organization that can help us have book studies so that our students can understand what they're reading, or a math tutor that can come out and help our students with Algebra 2, so we can understand what our community needs. Because my community may look very different than my fellow AHS family members community, but we all have needs. And so when parents and students can come and tell us what they need, then we can start asking for those dollars to be, moved and shifted to support all students. Because the gap, quote unquote, gap group is real. That achievement gap is real, and we want to make sure that we tackle it, utilizing those dollars and resources that we're afforded.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And Ms. Shirley, before you speak on that, let me correct one word. You said ask. If I'm not mistaken, I heard y'all say earlier that it's a majority student population of color now.
Yes.
So those tax dollars need to be demanded.
Yes. I like the word, yes.
I'm sorry, Ms. Early.
So I do the asking. Ms. Early does the demand.
Okay. I got you. You got the 1-2 punch.
That's right.
All right.
So to add to Maxine Holland,
Yes.
she's one of my best friends, and we have been on a journey for years. She went to Hampton and graduated, and she taught at Clark University. We both went to HBCU school, so I just love her. So here's the other piece to what Mrs. Barnes, Lanika was sharing. Yes, the resources, the funds are there, the money is there.
Yes.
But don't fool yourselves. You're going to have to do cartwheels, and you're going to have to show in and out how that money is going to be successfully used before they believe you. And you'll find yourselves, or the organization, even the students, laying out proposals. There's nothing wrong with that. And come and see me, show me. And before you know it, 3 years has passed, 15 years has passed, and you still have not gotten the proper funding. So yes, it's there. But I do believe that if we go at this the correct way, you don't need to beg, because that money belongs to our children.
That's right. That is right. That's right.
And if I can, I want to definitely lift Ms. Early up, because she is the advisor for and the coordinator for our NSBE Junior program. And our daughter joined NSBE Junior when she was able to in 6th grade. And the parent support and the parent voices, they wrote emails, they made phone calls.
Yes.
They actually went to meetings and said, okay, this program has done an amazing work for our children. And when they said that, it did wonders for the NSBE Junior program. So we want to say, parents, students, your voice, like Miss Early and I can talk until we turn blue in the face. But when people hear, and I think A.A. Rod said this about, parents' voices, and we talked about schools, like those private schools, and sometimes even charter schools, not so much, because they still have that governing body and that some what state control. That parent voice and that student voice is what's going to make the difference. So, know what's going on at your student school.
Absolutely. And definitely spread the word. Like they said, hopefully it's something that'll catch like wildfire. Hearing of other schools doing something similar. But if you are Albemarle High School family, you are invited this Tuesday, October 11th, 6:30, dinner and childcare. Did y'all mention childcare? Dinner and childcare. So ain't no excuse. At the Albemarle High School, shifting the narrative, partnership, and voice for Black and African American families at Albemarle High School. So wow, that is awesome. And family, we are joined by Lanika Barnes, Pearl Early, and just any closing comments, closing remarks, and anything else with the event or otherwise?
Yes, I just want to thank our principal, Darrell Barnum, because Dara is very open and he's very creative with us, and he respects our ideas, and he realizes where this he realized that he's a principal of today students, and he needs to do whatever it takes to meet those needs of these students. And so he's been very kind and generous with Mrs. Barnes and myself. You know, he always said, Miss Early, you know, do what you do best.
Right.
And so I just appreciate that, and I want to thank him for that.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I can say that as well. I see his work and the support. Yeah, so thank you all for joining us.
Thank you so
Oh,
much for
thank
having
you.
us.
Yeah. Looking forward to the continued partnership, and in communication, so folks know that this is a place that that they can come to and definitely hear more, and
Definitely.
and learn more about your work. So support it 100%.
Thank you.
Right, Aaron?
You know, I love black education. I come from my mom was a black female educator, so appreciate you guys being on the front line, doing what you do, but more importantly, you guys care and advocate for our children, and that's something that sometimes it gets a little lost, but y'all just be encouraged and keep up the great work.
Thank you. And Mr. Lewis, we will see you on the 25th, I believe, for the international breakfast.
Yes, ma'am.
I appreciate you.
Beautiful.
Yes,
Hey, I like how you see. You know what? That's like old school. I like how she told Charles where he was going.
On air, right? Like, got everybody holding me accountable now.
Yeah, there you go.
I love it.
Y'all so funny. Thank you.
All right, thank y'all.
Thank you.
And y'all stay tuned. We still got another hour show to go with Sir Charles A. Ron. Tell a friend. Hit us during the breaks if you wish. 434-422-9101. Online streaming worldwide right now as well. IMHO Talk Show. Well, tune in. Seville, Albemarle, 101.3 WVAI.
Lord, I'm so glad.
Aaron, you still there?
I believe I'm the foundation. We are the foundation to what you all do.
Yep.
Hey,
we're trying to get another one of those pictures.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, make sure I get my good side.
Good side.
And I want us to watch the HBCU PBS. There's a documentary. Layla and I watched it last night. It's okay.
What we're gonna try to do is if y'all can stand around the monitor or either sit around the monitor, then I'm gonna try to get a selfie.
Give me some.
Groupie, whatever they call it.
Oh, no. How you going to
So you wanna have your chair?
Am I in the way?
You wanna sit or we can pull up another chair?
No.
All right, you good? That's why I'm trying to get everybody in.
Whatever
on the
works for
screen.
you.
So what happened to you, Aaron? I lost your video.
It was that might have been you. Did I hit a
No,
mouse?
it wasn't you.
Okay.
You made me talk. Lost your video, Aaron.
We'll wait for it. Whew. Yeah, we'll wait for it.
I'm here. Yep.
All right, here we go. We're gonna take a picture.
Y'all got it? You got it? You. Yo.
Here we go.
Hold on, wait. You're listening to In My Humble Opinion, only on 101.3.
Yes. I to the ism, H to the ism talk show. Gotta bring this one in nice and smooth, Ron. Gotta bring this one in nice and smooth because we've been having so much fruitful conversation, talking about equity in education, all the resources that that are needed, not only in the schools but in the communities, and in the culture, right? Because that's where it starts. All the conversation generally comes back to our accountability, as you say, that Black self-respect. Yeah, and I think you muted. Hey, Ron.
Oh, my fault. I'm back for the people. My bad, y'all.
Cool. Yeah, so it comes back to that accountability, that self-respect, so the culture. So Before we get into this, Aaron, before anybody says, why are y'all talking about that foolishness? Why y'all talking about that clown? I tried to preface it just now, just by saying all that, because it runs deep. It runs deep, and I think this is just a figurehead, so to speak, to a much deeper issue.
Okay.
Who we talking about, Aaron? You want to tell the people in the back who we talking about, or what we talking about?
Kanye Chitter.
Man, you made a needle scratch on that one.
Yeah, he is baffling. He is massively confused. He's borderline disrespectful, but he's also very tactful and intentional.
Yes.
And he's all those things. And I think that at some point, and I think I'm just going to make my statement, we can talk about it. Black excellence, whatever we call black excellence, I don't care if it's money or whatever people, because sometimes that's what we associated with.
Right.
He ain't it.
Interesting.
He ain't it. And look, I like Yeezy. I think he's a really great musician. I think he's a great artist. But at this particular point,
he's a genius, right? Ain't that what
his level of always wanting to do things for attention has become, in some ways, his legacy more than his music.
Unfortunately,
more than his music. We were clowning earlier, but remember, I think, I said that lyric, and it was just like, it's the pot calling the kettle black.
Because and it just flowed too, it just kind of rolled off the tongue.
Yeah, but he was like, my girl got famous for, a home movie. But then he's criticizing his girl for being involved in a home movie, in a home movie.
Yeah. So here's the thing, man. Here's the thing.
And that's just one part of what we're talking about. That's just one part.
Right.
That's just one aspect. Yeah.
It's so deep, man. Like I look at this when it comes to us. When I say us as a people, us as black men,
yes.
Like we each individually are gonna make choices and decisions that at some point or the other doesn't make sense to the next person or to the next man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? The danger there is if it's differing end goals. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that's what and I've said this before, Aaron, like sort of we as a people a lot of times fall for the banana in the tailpipe, as you like to say as well, which is like we forget that there are ulterior motives a lot of times, or we like take a popular opinion and run with it because it's popular, whatever the case is. But end of the day, it's supposed to be about the end goal, even if the methodology doesn't line up. Now, that being said, what's really a question here is if our end goal and someone like Kanye's even lines up, because that's where the problem is. But I think we can't even get to see if our end goals line up a lot of times because we just get hung up in all the logistical. You see what I'm saying? Like we get caught up in the appearance of things. Now, the artsy side to that and of that is the only way that I give them benefit of the doubt. And when I say that very lightly. I know there's some people that's probably tuning me out right now, but I say that because, and let me be clear, I don't agree with our culture being appropriated. I don't agree with our culture and our pain, of our history and our heritage being mocked, being taken lightly. None of that, because we like we've been saying all show, those are the things. The history is what has led our mentality up to where we are now, to why we're still struggling with some things as a community. Right? So I don't take that lightly. But Aaron, what I'm saying on the flip side of that coin is that you take somebody like a Kanye and you take the current atmosphere that we're in. We're sort of like products of our own environment, but we also are sort of like our worst enemy, because we're in an environment right now where to be famous, it ain't even about talent anymore. It's about strategy. It's about marketing. You know what I mean? It's about like figuring out how you get machines to get you a certain amount of views and subscribers so that the algorithm picks you up. The more the algorithm sees your name, right, then the more it gets advertised to people. Like, so we got to remember like that we're like, this is a business, this is a machine. So what I'm saying is some people do things for the limelight, like I think you said. Sometimes things are done for the attention.
Yep.
And while you and I may disagree with that and find that quite punkish, that's still the way business is nowadays. It's like you got to stay in the forefront. You know how they say like all what is it? All news is good news, something like that. Like or all exposure is good exposure because
Yeah. Right.
I forget the exact term, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You know.
This is, but I think that, Charles, you hit it on the head. Like, he is what he is. And I think sometimes we struggle so much, Charles.
I forget the exact term, but you know what I'm saying.
Your audio. Your audio cut out back in there.
Like, he is what he is. And I think sometimes we struggle so much, Charles.
Have an issue. Yeah, something happened with the audio. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. You may have to disconnect your audio and reconnect it. That was weird. It got real staticky all of a sudden.
All right, I'm back. Can you hear me?
All right, about
there
that.
we go.
I don't know what happened.
Yeah. My fault.
We got you now.
Okay, my fault,
man.
man. But no, I was just gonna say, man, you hit it on the head. I was just saying that sometimes as a community, we see people aspiring and accomplishing large things on a wealth scale, and we associate that with either representing quote unquote culture, whatever that means, or being great people. And I think we have to learn how to just separate those two. And for what you just said, he's doing this for entertainment, but he does not represent, he is not, and he does not have to be the representative of not only Black people, but truth be told, Charles, it's even debatable whether or not he even associates in a manner with Black society at all.
Yeah.
Because he has made it very clear through his comment. He's made it clear through his commentary, through how he communicates, that, and I agree with him that there are some things problematic, as with all cultures, problematic with Black culture. But here's the problem I got with him. All them problematic things, you benefit from them. Every single one of them. Matter of fact, you benefit from them today because you're still even practicing some of them.
Yeah.
So how do you get to be extremely critical, but then at the same time want to represent the group, but then don't even want to hear what the group has to say about you?
Yeah.
Because he's got enough wealth now to where, and that's the issue, Charles. He's got enough wealth to where he's like, well, you don't matter. Well, you know what, Kanye, you're correct. You don't have to listen to us. But guess what? Don't expect to be embraced. Don't expect to be listened to. And don't expect us to think that you're important because we're a little bit smarter. You've gotten in business with people that get in business to be famous. And that's really, he's taken on that whole Kardashian mentality and he ran with it.
You said it. Hey, devil's advocate for a second. What if White Lives Matter was an artistic statement in a different way of saying all lives matter? Or was to pose the question artistically to see if you really believe that white lives matter too. Just ask. I'm throwing that out there because I'm trying to put myself, again, devil's advocate, giving benefit of the doubt, trying to put myself in an artistic kind of space to where I'm going to take a cultural lightning rod and do something artistic with it.
No. And the reason is because he's smart enough to understand the context. And he took a picture, and he took a picture with somebody that is pretty much one of the most toxic young Black females on the planet because she has heavily anti-Black thought. And that's where I disagree. Like, dude,
I'm with you.
you know, Charles, everything you could say could be true. But the reason that whole thing came about and that whole movement came about years ago was the death of young Black men. It ain't because it didn't matter.
Right.
It ain't because you see what I'm saying? It's not an artistic thing, Kanye.
Yeah.
It's because it was the death of young Black men that in many ways were innocent.
Yeah,
Trayvon Martin.
Off.
Yeah, and so he's doing the very nasty thing that we would get on either sides of the coin, Democrats or Republicans, could do when no statements are even made about White Lives Matter. He's doing the same identical thing. And then is trying to prove a point. And the other thing, and look, we don't this is supposed to be in my humble opinion, right?
Do I need to play a disclaimer?
No, ain't no disclaimer. Because you know how I feel. You know how I feel about this. I don't. You got money, bro. Candace Owens, y'all, you guys, you do whatever you want to do. You're in relationships with whoever you're in relationships with. But don't promote that as being successful and thinking that because this is really the messaging that he's getting to me, that he's giving, is that if you do what I do, this is the end goal. Look at my family. This is success. Nah, bruh. Many of us have successful families and have successful careers, and we don't have to, and we're not pushing this narrative that what you do and what your promotion is success, because that's how they identify. They're identifying with their man. I mean, you think about it, Charles. They've taken on the personality, and I want to get your opinion on this. They've taken on the personalities of their partners.
Assimilation, right? Like Get Out Part 2 and 3, right?
Kanye is taking on the personality of your partner and her family. Candace Owens, same thing. Candace Owens, does Candace Owens have any Black people in her family? Have you ever seen them?
I haven't. Like a lot of stuff. Yeah. You see the other side. Like a lot of stuff.
But you see her husband. This is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Like so what I'm hearing you say though is like there's a lot of deep rooted issue there that needs, so now I was devil advocates. Like, so now let's go to the far side of if the public opinion currently is correct, and it's like they just overboard with it. Then like that's like a lot of deep trauma that comes from. Like that's a lot of self-hate that would make you act in this sort of way. And here's the other thing too, man. It's like, again, like this is just a figurehead for a conversation, so listeners, be mindful like that. We ain't like here trying to gossip about like the hot topic right now. Like this is more cultural. Absolutely. And here's the thing, like think about it, y'all. Think about it. If this was almost anybody else, like there's only a handful of people, well-known people that garners this type of attention, and and he happens to be one of them. And let me break this down for maybe the younger audience who didn't experience Kanye's rise to fame, or let me break it down for the older folks who don't even, who wouldn't listen to him anyway, or even break it down to those who just like always ignored him and just never liked his music, right? Which is hard to find, Aaron. It is hard to find any fan of hip hop and rap music that at some point wasn't a huge Kanye West fan. That's why this is important. Like this ain't some clown that people call him a clown now, but this ain't just somebody that's irrelevant to the culture. This is somebody of Jay-Z, Diddy level, like LeBron level of the way I move, the culture moves. Like my style is what the culture. Like he brought in backpack rap, like to the mainstream. He took backpack rap to the mainstream. He like his production style shaped the generation of hip hop music. Like this is why when he makes a move that the culture disagrees with, is such a big deal.
He made Heart of the City.
Bro,
he made Never Change. No, you see where I'm going? Like he made there's an era of Rockefeller music.
Yeah.
And there's an era of Rockefeller music that for many of us in the hip hop culture, him, Just, they were it.
Yeah.
And the soul, and that's where I think that, because we're like, man, you brought back the soul sample, and that soul sample left your body. Like,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? It left your body. And now, and I'm not gonna, but also, did you see the comments that he made last night?
Nah.
So this might be
There's more?
newsflash. Huh?
I said there's more.
Hey, bro, they banned him off of IG for quote unquote anti-Semitic views and comments.
Well, that's a whole nother conversation there.
This is what I'm saying. He is conveniently, he's like, hey, bro, today I'm black and y'all mistreating me, but then next week I don't want nothing to do with black culture. And at some time, and at some point, that has to be for us. This is unacceptable. And it just has to be just that, because you don't get to play both sides of the fence. One minute you got black children with Kim, the next minute you don't. Bro, come on, man. Which one is it? Which one is it? One day you a black dad, the next day you're not. Come on, like, what we doing, man? Like, and the fact that we give him so much attention, you know, he got little Boosie sunburning shoes. It's just, man. Charles, it's just, but I think the lesson learned is that, man, at the end of the day, he's an entertainer, bro.
Yeah.
He's an entertainer, and he's trying to do what entertainers do. And that maybe is a reflection of us. Is like, we give this guy way too much attention. We're more involved. We're more, as a culture, in a society, we are more invested in his family than our own. And that's something we have to think about.
And that's what people got to remember too. Thank you for that comment. But that's like, see, that's the catch-22 though, so to speak. And, you know, as we kind of bring this topic to a close, like that's the catch-22 within itself, is that like our culture is who we are, right? That's what, like, it's no different than, you know, another conversation we had on another show, you know, a previous episode rather, of like when he was hanging out with Joel Osteen and stuff, and we were talking about like people get wrapped up in their pastors when they should, right? Because then you edify your pastor to a level, right? Then you edify your pastor to a level that now super supersedes your spirituality, right? So then when pastor makes a mistake, your whole belief system crumbles,
right? Because
your belief system is wrapped up in him or her, and not the actual spirituality of it,
right?
You know what I mean? And shouts out to Karen. Ain't nothing straightening but a little bit of straightening. You know, she knows. We got to play some Migos. We got to play some Migos for Karen.
Oh, shout out to Karen. Yeah, Karen. He just need a little straightening, Karen. Karen is right. He need a little bit, just a little bit. He just, no matter what, he need a lot. He need a lot.
But it's like that's the impact of it, man. It's like, you know, that, and then you think about like a Mahalia Jackson. You think about like, I don't know, James Brown, Stevie Wonder, whoever, Chuck Berry, right? It's like we can just say these are just people. But the fact is, the imprint that they left with their art on the culture defines generation. Bro, the college dropout, late registration, bro, like during those times, like those were times where the culture was like, yo, hip hop is back. Like, this is music our kids, we can listen to with our kids. This is an artist that we actually, you know, can ride in the car and like now me and my child can talk about hip hop because you got masterpieces such as College Dropout and Late Registration. You follow what I'm saying? It's like, that's why it is such a big deal, bro. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Listen, Watch the Throne is Watch the Throne is my album, dude. Like, it's just, but he's become a pariah of himself, man. And and it's sad, but it's also not too sad because he's very intentional about this stuff. And so I think what you said, Charles, before we bring this to a close, what you said in the beginning, now it got me thinking, all right, Kanye, so what's the business move behind this? Which is very, very and that's where I think is the problematic and the sad part, but where we have to say, If this is for attention, you just not getting no more of mine. And that's what it got to be.
Yeah.
That's what it got to be.
You might be right there, bro. Yeah, so, man, I think that's a good place to stop it at. And we take a little break and see what else the folks wants to talk about. You may need some financial advice from you, Aaron. I don't know. We got to see.
Hey, look, we can
See
get
what's
to it.
going
Let's
on.
get to it.
Sir Charles, Aaron, hit us up. You still got time. I'll take this break. 434-422-9101. I am HO Talk Show, streaming worldwide, and our local listening area is 101.3. Be right back.
Sure.
Oh, baby.
Never let me down. Come on, man. You ain't hit him with the never let me down, Charles. I don't know what you want to talk about, man. Hey, can you hear me?
101.3 Jams.
IMHO Talk Show. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, one more thing, Charles, for the last topic though. Remember when Kanye said, white America assassinate my character? Hey, easy. They not doing that. That's you, bro. That ain't, look, hey, bro, that's you. That is.
Oh man. What did we start? What box did we open?
Man, Beulah had a Mueller, but I switched it to a Billy because I'm richer.
But so since you brought it back up, last thing I will say too is like on the art tip though, because I have friends too, and like it's weird. Like when you remember the movie Beautiful Mind?
Yeah.
With Russell Crowe?
Yeah.
It was like, you remember, and I hope it's old now, so if you ain't seen it, I'm sorry. It's a spoiler alert. Turn me off for 10 seconds if you've never seen Beautiful Mind. But the the whole movie, we don't know that we're inside his head,
Right.
until the end of the movie. And so life is hard enough. And I know a lot of times when it comes to the arts, that is an escape for a lot of folks as well. But once we bring in stuff like mental illness, and you are a looked up to figure within that realm, like that gets scary. And I just want to bring it up because the last part was one of my favorites, of all times. I feel like top 5 dead or alive. 3 Stacks, Andre 3000, Andre Benjamin from Outkast fame, right? Like he's gone through a lot too. But his thing is like people say we need a solo album. You never did a solo album, right? But he's like I don't like I'm only going to do it if I feel like that I got something that not only is a good product, but it's something different, right? It's something new to present.
Right.
Now, what I bring that up, Aaron, is on the flip side, he could just be like out here just spewing off everything just for like social media attention, and anything that comes to his mind, he just spewing out there, seeing what sticks to the wall. But I respect that he doesn't do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
You feel what I'm saying? And it's like he feels like, hey man, like I put out enough good content for y'all to appreciate. Now, until I feel like I'm back in a similar space to where it's something worth putting out, I'm gonna be quiet.
Right.
Why
You
is it
know,
so hard to be quiet?
I- hey, I told you, I told you, Yeezy. Look, Yeezy told us, this, like what Siegel, what your life like? This ain't Christ like. Hey, bro, this ain't it, bro. Like
Oh
this
man.
ain't it, bro. Like all that, like that's what I'm saying. Like all of this, and I know we're going, but Charlie, this is what I'm saying. He also, and this is the point that I think people miss. Mm, he's also doing this in the name of, in ways he'll even justify doing this stuff in the name of religion.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I'm representing the Father. I'm
yeah. That's what he
representing
said.
Christ, bruh. This is
Yeah,
it's a big pot of just nasty gumbo, man. It's just a big pot of nasty gumbo, bro.
yeah. Cautionary tale, young folk. Speaking
Yeah,
of,
man.
let's go ahead and change gears on them.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Shouts out to all our people. I'm like, we probably should have played or should play "School Spirit" by Kanye, Alpha, Step, Omega.
Hey, good
Step.
step.
Hey, shouts out to all the homecomings that's been going on. Thankfully, I'm hearing everybody been safe thus
Yeah,
far,
yeah,
enjoying
yeah.
themselves all out. I know Aaron got some HBCU shout outs. What you got, Aaron? Go ahead.
Man, shout out to my peoples down in Delaware State University, Clark, Atlanta, Morris, FAMU, Bethune, South Carolina State, here locally, Allen, Benedict, man, St. Augustine, Howard, Hampton, I mean,
Norfolk
A&T,
State. Come on, man.
Central, Norfolk State,
Pride.
shout out to Norfolk, Virginia Union, shout out to Virginia Union, Maryland
Yes.
Eastern Shore. Man, you just want me to get the list and run through them all? Is that what you're trying to do?
We good. Hey, speaking of which, too, man, like I said, shout out to all our locals too. All of our kids enjoying y'all.
Oh
Y'all
yeah,
looking
absolutely.
good out there. Make sure them grades looking good too.
Yep,
Make sure everything lined up. Y'all looking sharp. So make sure it's you shot from top to bottom.
Yeah.
Right. But speaking of HBCUs, man, Jackson State, man, like shouts out to them. Coach Deion Sanders changing the game. Now, that is also important, not only because HBCU homecoming season, we got that pride, all that kind of stuff. But talk about somebody who's willing to risk it all, right? Deion Sanders, Hall of Famer, arguably greatest cornerback ever played a game. Had like $1 million broadcast contracts, had endorsement deals, all that kind of stuff, and still has been able to keep it, thankfully. But he's hitting the NCAA head on by taking top recruits from his alma mater. I'm surprised I ain't seen them burning his jersey yet.
I think somebody did. I think some little dusty dude tried to burn it. I think yeah.
But I'm taking top recruits from places like Florida State, bringing them to Jackson State.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
From something that we've said, Aaron, which is true. They need us. We don't need them. The value in a PWI's product is us, right? So like, shouts out to Deion for trying to throw that narrative out the window of that you gotta go to such and such school in order to be successful or to make it or whatnot, because we hold the value. So wherever we go is where the value's going.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's actually, the funny thing is actually me and my lady were actually watching Deion's interview on Earn Your Leisure last night. Real good interview. He's talking about Jackson State. And one of the interviewers had said, you did something that's never been done before. You got this kid, Travis Hunter, to come down because he was the number one prospect last year to come down to Jackson. And I paused it and I looked at my lady, I said, now you see how problematic that is? She was like, why? And I said, because how quickly do we forget that it was only 30, 40 years ago, Charles, that the best players in the country were going to the HBCU. Right. They weren't going to other places. Walter Payton, Jerry Rice. That's what I'm. So you see how that dynamic changed. Think about the dynamic. Right. Just think about how that dynamic changed. Yeah. Just like that. That the best players in the country were coming from these places. Then you integrate, and now all of a sudden, we can't believe it. That's like, bro, we was. But you just see, it's a change. It's a slight change in the conversation that we just have to be aware, because as you were just talking about earlier, just culturally, how certain things have just been instituted in our mind, and how quickly we forget history. How quickly we forget that this wasn't even the dynamic 40, 50 years ago. You know, you had Black Jesus, Earl of Pearl Monroe, best player in the country. Shout out to Winston-Salem State. You know, all these kids used to go to these schools, and they were producing. But the moment that you had integration get popped in, the schools started throwing money at them, better facility opportunities. So let's just not get it twisted, man.
It's even deeper than that.
Yeah,
for sure. And it's even, and you're totally 100% right. But it even goes any deeper. It's not just integration. It's, again, the banana in the tailpipe of a powerful system being able to change that narrative. Because that's what it was, right? Somehow the HBCUs had to be made inferior or to look inferior.
Right.
And then you had to promote that for people to believe that.
Right.
And to change the whole narrative around it. If you see what I'm saying? Like, that's the same thing that we're talking about when it comes to our schools, right? In our education. It's the same thing, man. It's like some man thinketh that he is, right?
That he is. Yeah, absolutely. Man.
But definitely homecoming season. Big ups to everybody, and then a lot of folks are going to be graduating soon too. So so making those choices, whatever your end goal is, my young people, make sure that the ends justifies the means. Because as we talk about the different types of schools and places you could go to, that makes all the difference. That's definitely one avenue where we don't need to keep up with anybody else. Whatever your end goal is, that should determine everything leading up to it. University ain't for everybody. You know what I'm saying? Military ain't for everybody. Trade school ain't for everybody. But whatever your end goal is, just make it make sense.
Yeah, that's a fact, man. That's a fact. Shout out to all the babies that's out there. My son's in school. We all got kids that are in high school, college, and those that are graduated. Just keep up the great work. Stay focused. Your parents, reach back out to them. You ain't got it by yourself. You got resources. You got people that are here to help you. And, we just got to make ourselves available. That was a really good conversation talking to Black educators earlier, man, because we don't get to really sometimes talk to people on the front line. And it's always good to know that you still got some sisters there that's down for the fight and are working in the best interest of Black students. So shout out to them, man. Shout out to them.
That's right. Absolutely. Man, so how else can we close it, bro? Like money, man. So, man, how much do you know about the funding, man? Because it looks like the funding be fluctuating when it comes to the HBCUs. Because and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think majority of HBCUs would get funding from PWIs because Black students weren't allowed, but then they were but you can have yours.
Right.
There's like when we talk finances, to close it out, there's so much within itself. So I think about endowments, and I think about the wealth that we have as a people, right? It's like, number one, we got to make sure that we are giving back and that we are circulating that dollar, right? Mm-hmm. But we still know that the system at hand, another economic tool to make us feel inferior, is that once that funding gets restricted, whether it is government funding or whether it's granted funding or whatever the case is, there's no way, which I think is a struggle HBCUs have been having. It's like you can have endowments, but the PWIs don't just have endowments. They have multiple streams of income and revenue coming through. So if you have a system that is intent on making the HBCU inferior, then of course the one big way to do it is to restrict the funding that maybe it used to get or otherwise couldn't have.
Right. Man, I just think that sometimes, it's funny. We listened to Coach Prime do an interview last night. I think he was talking about a facility, like a new room that they had in Jackson for the football players. And he made a comment, but I think it applies to this conversation. He says, they asked him, they said, hey, you contributed some of this money to finishing this room too. And Prime said, look, you got 3 chances to do what you say, and then I'm gonna do it. And I thought that was very interesting. He said, look, you said you're gonna do this, but but if you decide or whatever happens, you don't get it done, I'm going to do it and step in myself. And I think that's the mentality that we have to have. Sometimes we are sitting around waiting for things to happen where we got to just be a little bit more intentional, Charles. We got to divert some of our personal family resources to helping these institutions. And it's crazy you say that. I'm about to become a sponsor for a local HBCU here down here. And I talked to the AD
What's
at that.
up?
Yeah. And I talked to the AD here, had a great meeting. And he told me, he was like, man, Aaron, they don't even come to us to want to be a sponsor. And that's a reflection of what people think the value of these institutions are. But they do have value because our kids are there. They got value because our babies are there, and they serve a purpose. Or do they have some things that are problematic? Absolutely, just like other schools do. But we have to be intentional about putting our resources into more resources into these institutions that are attempting to even solve some of these problems. And the other thing, Charles, is we forget the history of where these schools came from. Like the school that I'm talking about here locally in this area, it was created after slavery to educate freed slaves and freed slaves and other free people in the society because they couldn't go to other schools. But that's what I'm talking about when you have to have pride in your group, and it has to be important. You know what I'm saying? It has to be important. And if that's not important, you'll just ignore it. And like you said, you'll just think that we're just supposed to be mediocre. So we just got to be a little bit more serious about it and support these institutions. Because listen, like you said, if people know that there's a war going on and they're going to get underfunded, you can't look at that and be like, man, that ain't right. You got to step in there and say, well, any little bit helps. Any little bit helps.
And even the local public schools that we were talking about as well, because we know, like we said, if your demographic is changing now, then you got to take advantage of that. That means you say where the tax dollar goes, but it also goes into voting, right? That means we got to get back to taking voting serious. Man, it's so multi-layered, it's crazy. Because again, banana in the tailpipe, like we've been made to believe that our votes don't matter or that we shouldn't vote, it ain't gonna make a difference, right? So now, if your school population, your community is majority of people like you with shared interests, but you ain't voting, then that means the people that's making choices with your money, they ain't doing like what you could be literally making them do right now.
Yeah.
It's like, bruh.
That's why we say, that's why we say, in the words of Tupac Shakur, we might fight amongst each other, but I promise you this, we'll burn this bee down and get us pissed. And sometimes when you just broke it down the way that it is, Charles, it's almost like we just got to burn the whole stuff. It's almost like you got to burn it down because there's nothing good that's coming from this because it's always something that you have to battle. To where it's just not equitable. You know what I'm saying? It's just never equitable the way that people should want it to be. But, be encouraged, everybody. Be encouraged.
Definitely. So moving forward, any other, was that the financial advice for the day
Nah, man.
Or do we need to start buying homes in cities that have HBCUs and get your money from Aaron Simmons? Is that what you telling me?
No. The financial advice for the day is they got crab legs on sale at Food Lion for 2 for $20. Nah, man. No, the real financial advice. The real advice is obviously not really advice, but everybody sees that the mortgage market is really volatile. Mortgage rates have gone up the highest they've been in about 20 to 25 years. So I just think people just need to focus on your own personal financial situation. When I talk about group a lot, I'm talking about you and your individual family. Always reassess where your family is financially, and if you need to make changes, you need to get on a budget, you need to pay down debt. I'm a preacher of those things because by doing those things, which is saving, investing, and paying down debt, only good things will happen. Nothing good comes from being just a constant consumer. Nothing good comes from it. You might feel good in that moment, but nothing good comes from always wanting to be a consumer. So you just have each one of us individually within ourselves and also our families, we have to analyze exactly where we are financially, be honest with ourselves and say, okay, what changes do we need to do? Because here's the other thing. Geico just made major layoffs nationwide. I think we were just reading something to where they stopped insuring the whole state of California.
Jeez.
Large corporations are making big business decisions to benefit their bottom line. What are you
Of
doing?
course.
What are you doing as a family? How
That's
does
right.
that look for your family? You know?
That's right. And you know what else? It's always group economics. Like, because even the system that we say is stacked up against us, right? It's like at some point, and really like that's what laws are if you think about it, Aaron. And
Yeah.
that's what we as a community, that's the way we got to start thinking. Laws is always a group of people saying, man, if we do this, we're gonna be better off.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
It's
That's
got to be group. Yeah, you gotta be group first, man. And everybody else does it. And I think sometimes we're group first in the wrong things. But I think if we just switch our mentalities a little bit and just create a new mindset, we'll start to progress, and we'll start to see some of those constructive changes that we'll want to see. But yeah, we ain't doing no White Lives Matter t-shirt. And I've even seen white people say we ain't doing no White Lives Matter t-shirt.
good.
So I'm good with that.
Bet not. For sure. Yeah, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. Like in November, man, like you get it ready because going into them holidays, we gotta share the Thanksgiving message and then the Christmas message, like so sharpen your iron, Ron, like when it comes to that financial advice.
Yeah. Oh, one more thing. Be remiss without saying, look, it's election season. Your
Yes.
local elections are coming up. I think the best thing you can do is, and this is something I actually started doing yesterday. We were driving past somebody here locally in the school board, and I actually came in this morning and I started just Googling who are the people, up for school board, up for different. You need to figure out what's going on in your local community, because 5 years down the road, you start saying, why did they build a dam right here instead of a new school? But
Yep.
then you figure out that, and this was something I've been guilty of, then you figure out that, man, they did have that vote up there a few years ago.
Right.
However, I decided to either sit out, or I decided to not, quote unquote, do my research on the candidates, and I voted for somebody that doesn't have not only my county's interest in mind, but have the citizens of the county in mind as well. So you got to get locally politically involved. You guys have got local, school board members and things of that nature that need your support. And you also have school board members that need to get out of there. And you got politicians that need to get out of there. But if you don't know what's happening, you can't do nothing.
That is the truth. That's the note that you ended on right there, Aaron.
Yeah, and don't buy no more Yeezys. How about that? Don't buy no Yeezys.
Yeah, and hopefully too, we're gonna have our good friends from Seville tomorrow too coming in with that election report, the voters guide. So you want to stay tuned, y'all. I am H.O. It's been fun. It's been fun as always. Hopefully you've been edutained. Signing off, Sir Charles, Aaron. Till next time.
Yeah. It's the Rock.